There's an exciting feature in Summer 21. I don't know if you've had a chance to check it out. It's called Fields Beta, and it is very interesting, very promising feature, still in beta, but it allows you to pick fields on your record variable and drop them on your screen element. And these components, they carry their required and field length attributes with them. You don't really need to set up a lot of stuff for you to be able to start using them in your flow. Quite promising. Let's check it out. So let me just create a new flow, and this is going to be a screen flow. Fields Beta can be used in screen flows. I'm going to work in auto layout mode, and I'm going to immediately add obviously a screen element. And in my screen element, I can add, for example, a text input here, right? Let me just name my screen first screen. Not very innovative, and let's say this is called full name. Now this is the fields functionality here. Where I have the components, there's a second tab. It's a beta fields tab. I can use if I actually have a get element, or if I create a record variable, I guess. So I gotta get out quickly here. Can I create a record variable from here? Yes, I can actually. All right, let me just get out for a second. Let's do a get first, and let's do a get contact. Object contact, and the filter conditions ID needs to equal the record ID input variable that I'm going to create, of type text, obviously available for input, right? So I want to just get the first record. Everything is fine. So as soon as I do that, let me just save first, because if I don't save, I might not be able to see the get record variable that this created. Fields beta screen flow. So now when I go into my screen element, I should be able to point my screen element to the record variable that my get step created, right? And not every field is supported. I cannot use all the fields that are available today. It's in beta still. I can add text, date, and date and time as far as I can see here. Pick lists are not included, for example, right? So let's add the birth date here. And there's language and title. Let's add birth date. The cool thing about this one is that you can mix and match. Let's add the title here and the department here. The cool thing about this one is you can actually mix and match the components. You don't have to use just fields from Fields Beta or just components from the other tab. You can just mix and match them. Now, the magic happens here. As soon as I add this, all the stuff that I had to manually set before is already set and done over here. So the text field length, whether it's required or not, the field label, all that stuff is done for me. Now this is actually mind-blowing. It is going to be fantastic once this comes out of beta. It's going to make things much faster and easier for many people. And you know what this is fantastic for right now, this is great for, is when you actually create solutions and demos you have to present to others. You need to teach flows, just to demonstrate a couple of different things on screen flows. We have to create a couple of fields on a screen, and that took us quite a long time, which is going to be much faster now. Now there is field visibility for these as well. So now the full name here, and the reason why name is not here, contacts, from contacts, the name, because we have actually a name component, but the name component is not supported. So we gotta do, I call this one full name anyway, so we have to set this one ourselves. So let's set the default to get contact full name. Okay, this is done. Now I don't need to set the defaults for these here. These are going to get their values from the get step record variable field values. So let me just say done here. Now, as we were chatting and debating about fields beta on Slack, the discussion was whether we could use these values and process them later on after the screen step. Like, for example, can we do decision, right? Let's do this. Let's add a decision step here, and let's call this one age, and this should be adult, and the decision here should evaluate the age, the birth date, right? The birth date on the screen. Now we're not going to see the screen element for birth date because we used the fields beta functionality, but our screen element is actually setting the birth date field on the record variable here. So I should be able to use this here, the birth date from the record variable, right? And that should have the updated date. If the user enters a new birth date on the screen, the user's value should be reflected in this record variable field value. And I should evaluate, I'm going to hard code this one, which is not very good, but I'm going to say if the birth date is, I'm going to compare it to the date of today, 18 years ago, right? So 6/8/2003. I hope I'm doing this right? So if the birth date is greater, no, it's the birth date is less than or equal, let's include equal, less than or equal 6/8/2003, then this person is an adult. If not, not adult. So let's add a screen component and call this one adult screen. display text. Adult text. This person is an adult. Okay, so done. Let's save this one. Obviously, I need to find a contact record in my Salesforce org to test this. Let's test this on Harvey Dent. Okay, debug. Okay, Harvey Dent's name came. We know that he's a manager. And let's update the department field. Department would be Marvel. And let's update the birth date to April 1, 2008. I said, right? Let's do it that way. Next. Well, we didn't actually update the field values on the database. Now let's see what this did over here. So I got the records, I saw the field values, so I know that that worked well. So when I come to the decision step, I have the right value. So April 1, 2008 is less than or equal June 8, 2003. Then this person is going to be an adult, but that's not the case. So the default outcome of not adult is executed. The values have not been updated on the database because I did not include an update step. Let's check that. So as you can see, when I run this again, although in screen flows the changes are not rolled back, I can see that the values are not updated on the database. Let me include an update step. So what needs to be done here is I can update my record variable, but the full name I'm going to have to assign if I want it updated. If I don't assign the full name, it's not going to be updated. Now the right way of updating name would be asking for first name and last name and then updating it. So I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm just going to update the record variable. And I can just pick the record variable that might get step created. So that should do it. Let's test this again. So when I run this, first of all, I can see that the values have not updated. The department is again blank. The date is the first date that I saw when I ran this the first time. So I'm going to change this to 2008. Next. And I can see now my update step executed. Run this again. And I can see the values have updated on the database. Now I'm going to change this one to 2001. Then this person, Harvey, is going to become an adult. And in this case, I'm going to see that my screen displayed correctly after the decision step. And that's the end of the flow. Now let's do this right over here. Instead of using first full name, let's use first name and last name. Let's add another one. And this one would be last name. Well, I need to change the default value as well here. This should say get contact first name. This one would be last name, and this would be get contact last name. Okay, so this is done. Now, in this case, if I want to update this on the database, I need to include an assignment or update element, either way, I think. So let me just include an assignment here. Let's test this without including an assignment. Debug. Let's add a 1 at the end of Harvey's name. Finish. Run again. The 1 disappears, right? So that means I need to add an assignment here. And let's call this assign name, quite descriptive. And I need to update the record variable first name to the screen component first name with the screen component first name value. And again here, last name equals last name. All right, so save, debug. So add a 1 at the end of Harvey, change manager to executive, and let's assume that DC Universe transferred Harvey. And let's check this as well. Let's change this so that Harvey is no longer an adult. Next. So everything seemed to have run correctly, and I can see now Harvey's name, title, department, and birth date have all been updated. Now there is one more thing to do. We also debated and chatted about whether the conditional visibility on fields work, and feedback was it didn't work. Let me just illustrate that. So now if I want to, for example, although it doesn't make too much sense, if I want to hide the department field based on the title field value, right? So I would say title. Well, I couldn't point it to title. I would have to point to get contact title, right? Then if the title value is not null, then display the department. That's what this is saying. So let's see what that's gonna do. And then let's also make birth date conditional on one of the classic fields, like first name. So if first name is null, false, show that field. So let's see what that does. So if I delete the value first name, it updates my screen and refreshes automatically. As I start typing, I can see that the birth date field appears, disappears. Now let's see if that works for title. Now with title this doesn't work because this element points directly to the record variable field value, and the record variable field value does not update until I click next on the screen, right? So if I do this, let me just delete this one and keep it that way, and let me also delete the title. If I do this, hit next, and then run this again, now that the field values have been updated and the field values that we get from the database like have empty first name and empty title fields, they are null, blank, then the conditional visibility works fine, but it doesn't refresh the screen like it does over here. So I can start typing in title. That is not going to make the department component visible. Yeah, that's what was shared also on Slack, and yeah, that's how this works. If you're going to do conditional visibility, then this is not very useful. That's all, folks. Enjoy.